Emily Summers stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of her new shirt for what felt like the 100th time. Today was her first day at Westlake High School, a large school in the middle of the bustling city. She had just moved from Maple Creek, a quiet little town where everyone knew each other and life felt simple. Now, everything was different. Taking a deep breath, Emily grabbed her backpack and headed downstairs. "You'll be great, honey," her mom reassured her as she handed Emily her lunch. "Just be yourself." But Emily wasn't so sure. What if being herself wasn't enough in a school where no one knew her? The drive to school felt like it lasted forever, though her mom tried to make small talk along the way. Emily's stomach churned as they approached the giant brick building that was Westlake High. It looked more like a university than a high school. The students outside all seemed to know exactly where they were going, while Emily felt completely lost. "Okay, here we go," she muttered under her breath as she stepped out of the car. With one last wave to her mom, Emily joined the flow of students heading inside. As soon as she entered the school, it felt like everyone was moving in fast motion. Students rushed through the hallways, shouting greetings to each other, slamming lockers, and laughing as they passed. Emily clutched her schedule, trying to figure out where her first class was, when she accidentally bumped into someone. "Sorry," she said quickly, stepping back. The girl she bumped into smiled warmly. "No problem. First day?" she asked, her voice friendly. Emily nodded, grateful for the kindness. "Yeah, I'm Emily. I just moved here." "I'm Olivia," the girl said, adjusting her backpack. "And this is Hannah," she added, gesturing to another girl with curly hair standing beside her. "Hi," Hannah waved cheerfully. "It's always tough being the new girl. Need help finding your class?" Emily's heart lifted. "Yes, please." The three of them walked together, and Olivia and Hannah pointed out some of the important spots in the school: the library, the cafeteria, the gym. They seemed nice, and Emily started to relax a little. But just as she was beginning to think things weren't so bad, Hannah's expression suddenly changed. She grabbed Emily's arm and pulled her to the side of the hallway. "Quick, step aside," she whispered. Emily blinked in confusion. "What's going on?" "That," Olivia said in a low voice, nodding toward a group of girls strutting down the hall like they owned the place, "is the Queen's." Emily watched as three girls, perfectly dressed with flawless makeup, walked by. The leader, a tall blonde girl with a fierce gaze, seemed to attract attention without even trying. As they passed, the hallway quieted slightly, and it was clear that everyone made an effort to stay out of their way. "That's Jessica," Hannah whispered. "She's the queen of the queens, and trust me, you don't want to get on her bad side." Emily's eyes widened. She had never seen anyone with so much presence. Jessica didn't just walk. She practically glided down the hall, her head held high, as if she were a celebrity walking the red carpet. The girls following her, Amber and Chloe, seemed just as intimidating, though they clearly took their cues from Jessica. "They think they run the school," Olivia explained, "and honestly, they kind of do. They're popular, rich, and, well, not very nice." Emily gulped. "They look like trouble." "They are," Hannah said, shaking her head. "Just be careful. Jessica doesn't like anyone stealing her spotlight. She's had plenty of targets before, and it never ends well for them." As the queens disappeared down the hall, the noise level gradually returned to normal, and Emily let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thanks for the warning," she said, glancing back at Olivia and Hannah. "I'll keep my distance." "No problem," Olivia smiled. "Westlake can be tough, but stick with us. We'll help you out." Emily nodded, feeling a little more at ease. She wasn't sure what to expect from this new school, but at least she had made 2 friends. And as long as she avoided the queens, maybe, just maybe, she'd survive Westlake High. But as she walked to her first class with Olivia and Hannah, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that her life at this new school was about to get much more complicated. It had only been a week since Emily started at Westlake High, but already she was starting to feel the pressure. Every day she saw the queens, Jessica, Amber, and Chloe, making their grand entrance into the cafeteria or strutting through the hallways, always surrounded by a crowd. Emily kept her distance, just as Olivia and Hannah had advised, but she couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to be part of their world. That question was answered much sooner than she expected. One afternoon, as Emily was grabbing her lunch, she heard someone call her name. Turning around, she was startled to see Jessica standing behind her, a small smile on her lips. "Emily, right?" Jessica's voice was calm, almost too calm. Her gaze was sharp, taking in every detail of Emily's appearance. Yeah," Emily replied, her heart pounding in her chest. What could Jessica possibly want with her? "Come sit with us," Jessica said, more of a command than a request. "We've noticed you." Emily blinked in surprise. Jessica had noticed her? This was completely unexpected. She glanced across the cafeteria at Olivia and Hannah, who were sitting at their usual table. They waved at her, but Emily hesitated. "Come on," Jessica pressed, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. Amber and Chloe stood behind her, both smiling as if they already knew Emily's answer. Before she could think it through, Emily found herself nodding. "Okay, sure." As soon as she agreed, Jessica's smile widened. "Great, let's go." Emily followed Jessica and her friends to their table at the center of the cafeteria. It was the best spot in the room, where everyone could see them. As they sat down, Amber and Chloe immediately started talking about their plans for the weekend, while Jessica turned her attention to Emily. "So, you're new," Jessica said, picking at her salad with perfectly manicured nails. "How are you finding Westlake so far?" Emily shifted in her seat, unsure how to answer. "It's different from my old school, a lot bigger." Jessica nodded, not really paying attention. "You're from some small town, right?" "Yeah," Emily replied. "Maple Creek." Jessica exchanged a glance with Amber and Chloe, who giggled. "Cute," she said, in a way that made it sound anything but. "Well, you're in the city now, and things work a little differently here." Emily wasn't sure how to respond to that. She glanced at the other tables, noticing how many eyes were on them. Sitting with the queens made her feel like she was on display, and the thought made her both nervous and excited. Jessica leaned in slightly. "You've got potential, Emily. You're pretty, smart, and new, which makes you interesting." She tilted her head. "We're always looking for new friends who know how to fit in." Emily's heart skipped a beat. This was it. Jessica, the most popular girl in school, was inviting her into their exclusive group. It felt surreal. A part of her was curious, flattered even. She had never been in a group like this before, and it seemed like an opportunity to fit in, to not be the awkward new girl anymore. "Are you interested?" Jessica asked, her tone casual but with an underlying edge, as if the wrong answer could change everything. Emily hesitated, but then nodded. "Yeah, I guess so." Jessica smiled, satisfied. "Good. There's just one thing. You'll need to make a few adjustments, to match the group." "Adjustments?" Emily echoed, not sure what she meant. Chloe chimed in with a laugh. "Nothing major, just your style could use a little update. We can help with that." Amber nodded. "Yeah, and maybe try something different with your hair. You'd look amazing with highlights." Emily felt a flicker of doubt. Was her appearance really that bad? She had always been comfortable with her style, jeans, sneakers, a simple top. But now, sitting with these girls, she felt like she was suddenly under a spotlight that revealed every flaw. "I guess I could change things up a bit," Emily said, though she wasn't entirely convinced. Jessica smiled again, this time more approvingly. "Perfect. You'll love it. We'll take you shopping this weekend." The rest of lunch passed in a blur. Emily tried to keep up with the conversation, but most of it was gossip about other students she barely knew. Jessica and the others laughed at inside jokes and threw out names of people Emily had never even heard of, making her feel slightly out of place. But every time she started to feel uncomfortable, Jessica would flash her that dazzling smile, and Emily reminded herself that this was a chance to belong. Over the next few days, things began to change. Emily found herself drifting away from Olivia and Hannah, spending more and more time with Jessica, Amber, and Chloe. She started wearing the clothes they picked out for her: stylish dresses, heels, accessories she had never thought of wearing before. She even got her hair done with the highlights Chloe had suggested. At first, it felt strange, like she was playing a role, but the more she dressed like them and acted like them, the more attention she got at school. People looked at her differently. Teachers smiled at her in the halls. Students stopped to compliment her new look. Emily had never felt so visible before. But with visibility came pressure. The queens expected her to act a certain way, to laugh at their jokes, and to agree with whatever they said. She found herself gossiping about other students, even though it made her feel uneasy. Jessica would often lean in and whisper something about someone passing by, and Emily would nod, pretending to agree, even when she didn't. She barely had time to talk to Olivia and Hannah anymore. When she did see them, it was usually just a quick wave or a few words exchanged in class. Emily missed them, but she told herself this was all part of fitting in. She didn't want to be the outsider again. But as she stared at herself in the mirror one morning, wearing the newest outfit Jessica had approved, Emily couldn't help but wonder if she was losing something important, something that had made her feel like herself. Was being one of the queens really worth it? The cafeteria was buzzing with its usual lunchtime chaos, but Emily felt like she was in a different world. Sitting at the center of attention with the queens had become her new normal, and with every passing day, she was pulled deeper into their circle. Jessica's approval felt like a stamp of validation, but lately, something else had begun creeping into Emily's mind: doubt. It started small, with comments here and there. Jessica would casually mention how certain students had secrets that they wouldn't want getting out. At first, it seemed like harmless gossip, the kind everyone in high school engaged in. But one day, after school, Jessica's real game began to show. They were lounging by Jessica's pool, enjoying the sun and talking about the upcoming school dance. Jessica was on her phone, barely paying attention, when she suddenly glanced at Emily with that calculating look she had. "Hey, Emily," she said, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. "I need a favor." Emily looked up, surprised. "Sure. What is it?" Jessica lowered her sunglasses and leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping just enough to make the moment feel serious. "You know Valerie, right? The girl who's always hanging out by the library?" Emily nodded. She had seen Valerie's a few times. She seemed shy, always carrying a stack of books and sitting by herself. Emily didn't really know her, but she had never given her much thought. "Yeah, I know her." "Why?" Jessica smirked. "I need you to find something out about her. She's been a little too cozy with my ex lately, and I don't like it. I'm sure she's hiding something embarrassing, find out what it is. Emily blinked, taken aback. You want me to spy on her? Jessica laughed as though it were the funniest thing she had ever heard. It's not spying. It's just gathering information. Trust me, everyone in this school has something they don't want people to know. You just have to look close enough. Amber and Chloe exchanged amused looks, as if they had heard this kind of thing 100 times before. Emily, on the other hand, felt a cold pit form in her stomach. She glanced down at her phone, unsure of what to say. I don't know, Jessica. I mean, Valerie seems harmless. Jessica's smile faded, her expression hardening. It's not about her being harmless. It's about control. People like her think they can just come into our world without consequences. We're the ones who set the rules here, not them. Emily shifted, uncomfortably. This was the first time Jessica had directly asked her to do something that felt wrong. Finding out embarrassing secrets about someone just to keep them in check wasn't what she had signed up for. She had thought joining the Queens was about friendship, popularity, fitting in. But now it felt more like a game of manipulation. Jessica noticed her hesitation and leaned back with a sigh. Look, if you're going to be one of us, you need to understand how things work. It's just a part of keeping order. If you're not up for it, she let the sentence hang in the air, a clear challenge. Emily could feel the weight of her words. She wasn't being given a choice. Refusing could mean losing her place in the Queens and all the status that came with it. The old Emily, the one who would have stood up and said no, felt distant. She had come so far, changed so much just to fit in. Was it worth throwing all that away? She glanced at Jessica's cold, expectant gaze and knew the answer Jessica wanted to hear. Okay, Emily said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll do it. Jessica's smile returned, slow and victorious. Good, I knew you'd come through. That night, as Emily sat in her room, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling gnawing at her. She stared at her phone, scrolling through social media, but her mind kept drifting back to Valerie. She imagined the girl sitting alone at lunch, quietly reading, while the rest of the school moved around her. What kind of secret could Valerie even have? Why did Jessica care so much? The next day, Emily began her task. She tried to casually observe Valerie between classes, noticing the way she slipped out of the lunchroom early or lingered by the lockers after school. It didn't take long for Olivia and Hannah to notice something was off. Are you okay? Olivia asked as they sat together in biology class. You've been acting different lately. Yeah, you're always hanging out with the Queens now, Hannah added, not unkindly, but with concern. They're not good for you, Emily. Emily bit her lip, feeling the sting of their words. I'm fine. It's just, things are complicated. Hannah frowned. Complicated how? We haven't even hung out in ages. Olivia reached over, putting a hand on Emily's arm. We're your friends, Emily. You don't have to change just to fit in with them. You're great just the way you are. Their kindness only made Emily feel worse. She wanted to tell them everything, about Jessica's request, about how wrong it all felt, but the words wouldn't come. She didn't want them to know how far she had fallen. I'm just trying to figure things out, Emily mumbled, her eyes on the desk. Olivia and Hannah exchanged worried looks, but they didn't push further. Emily could tell they wanted to help, but how could they when she couldn't even help herself? By the end of the week, Emily had managed to overhear something that might be useful to Jessica. She caught a conversation between Valerie and a teacher about how Valerie had once failed a class and had to retake it over the summer. It wasn't a huge secret, but in the cutthroat world of Westlake High, even something small could be enough to bring someone down. That weekend, When she met up with the queens, she nervously told Jessica what she had found. Jessica's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "See, I knew you had it in you." She laughed, turning to Amber and Chloe. "Can you imagine? Little Miss Perfect failing a class? This is going to be fun." But as Jessica and the others started planning how they would use this information to humiliate Valerie, Emily felt her stomach churn. This wasn't fun. It was cruel. And for what? Just to prove their power. For the first time since she had joined the Queens, Emily started to wonder if this was really where she belonged. What had she become? Emily sat in her room, staring blankly at the mirror. Her reflection felt like a stranger. Glossy hair with highlights she never wanted, stylish clothes she didn't recognize, and a hollow feeling in her chest. Days had passed since she gave Jessica the information about Valerie, and the guilt gnawed at her like an unwelcome guest. Every time she thought about what Jessica planned to do with that information, her stomach twisted. She had tried to push the thoughts away, telling herself this was just part of being in Jessica's group, but it wasn't so simple anymore. There was a growing voice inside her, one that sounded a lot like Olivia and Hannah, telling her this wasn't right. On Monday morning, Emily found herself walking with Olivia and Hannah to their lockers. She hadn't spent much time with them lately, but they had been persistent, trying to pull her back. Emily could feel the distance between them, though. It was like she was caught between two worlds, unsure of where she belonged. "So," Hannah started, her tone careful, "have you, talked to Jessica lately?" Emily knew what was coming. They had been hinting at it all week, trying to get her to open up about her time with the Queens. "Yeah, we've been hanging out," Emily said, her voice uneasy. Olivia looked at her, her brows furrowed with concern. "Emily, we know you're trying to fit in, but are you sure this is what you want?" Hannah nodded, her voice softer. "Jessica and her friends, they're not good for you. They're toxic, Emily. Everyone can see it." Emily shifted uncomfortably, avoiding their eyes. "It's not like that. It's complicated." "It doesn't have to be," Olivia pressed. "You don't need them. We miss the real you, the Emily who didn't care about what people thought. Hanging out with the Queens is changing you, and not in a good way." Their words hit harder than Emily wanted to admit. She knew they were right. She felt the change every time she looked in the mirror, every time she caught herself repeating something mean that Jessica had said. But it wasn't that simple. Leaving the Queens would mean going back to being invisible. Wasn't it better to be someone, even if that someone wasn't truly her? Emily was saved from answering when Jessica and her entourage appeared in the hallway. As always, they moved like they were gliding through the crowd, heads turning to watch them pass. Jessica gave Emily a quick glance, one that said she expected her to follow. Olivia gently grabbed Emily's arm. "You don't have to go with them, you know." But Emily hesitated, her mind torn between her old friends and the pull of the Queens. "I'll catch up with you later," she muttered, slipping away and falling into step beside Jessica. That afternoon, as they lounged in Jessica's lavish living room, gossiping about the latest school drama, Jessica's expression darkened. She had a new target. "There's this new girl," Jessica said, flipping through a magazine with casual disinterest. "Her name's Megan, and she's already getting way too much attention." Emily perked up, feeling a chill creep up her spine. She had seen Megan around school, a quiet girl who had just moved to Westlake. Megan didn't seem to care about popularity, but apparently she had attracted enough attention for Jessica to notice. Amber and Chloe exchanged wicked grins. "Oh, we're going to have fun with this one," Amber giggled. Jessica leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a familiar, dangerous spark. We need to take her down a peg before she thinks she can just walk in and be somebody. And Emily, she turned to her with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm putting you in charge of this. Emily's heart sank. What? What do you mean? Jessica's smile widened, shark-like. You know the drill. Find out something about her, something we can use. She's been hanging out with the art club a lot, right? People who are that quiet always have something to hide. Emily froze, her mind racing. This was different from the situation with Valerie. Megan hadn't done anything wrong. She was just new. But Jessica didn't care. She saw Megan as a threat, and to her, that was enough reason to go after her. I don't think, Emily started, her voice trembling. I don't think Megan is hiding anything. Jessica's eyes narrowed dangerously. That's not your decision to make, Emily. If you want to stay with us, you'll do what I say. Emily felt her breath catch in her throat. Was this what it had come to? Destroying someone's reputation just because Jessica felt threatened? She had already hurt Valerie, and the guilt was still fresh. Could she really go through with this again? I don't think I can do it, Emily said quietly, her voice barely audible. It's not right. The room fell silent. Amber and Chloe exchanged stunned glances, but Jessica's expression shifted from surprise to something colder. Excuse me? Jessica's voice dripped with icy disbelief. Emily swallowed hard. I just don't think it's fair. Megan hasn't done anything wrong. Jessica stood, her tall figure looming over Emily as her smile twisted into a sneer. You think you know better than me? She asked, her tone sharp and cutting. I brought you into this group. Without me, you'd still be that pathetic, invisible girl no one cared about. Emily felt her face flush with shame, but she forced herself to stand her ground. I don't want to hurt people just to stay popular, Jessica. This isn't who I am. Jessica's eyes flared with fury. Fine, she snapped. If you don't want to be part of this, then get out. Emily felt the weight of her words hit her like a slap. What? You heard me, Jessica spat. You're out. I don't need weak, spineless nobodies in my group. Amber and Chloe stared, unsure of what to say, but they didn't protest. They never did. Jessica's word was final. For a moment, Emily stood there, stunned. She had known this would happen if she stood up to Jessica, but the reality of it hit harder than she expected. Still, a strange sense of relief washed over her. It was over. She was free. Without another word, Emily grabbed her bag and walked out of Jessica's house, her heart pounding. The air outside felt fresh and cool on her skin, and for the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe again. The next day at school, everything felt different. Emily knew people were whispering about her, and she could feel the stares as she walked through the halls. She wasn't one of the queens anymore. Her short-lived popularity had evaporated overnight. But as she approached her locker, she saw Olivia and Hannah waiting for her with warm smiles. You okay? Olivia asked, her voice full of genuine concern. Emily nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. Yeah, she said, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. I think I am. Hannah grinned. Welcome back, Emily. We missed you. As the three of them walked down the hallway together, Emily realized that popularity didn't matter. What mattered was being true to herself and having real friends who stood by her no matter what. Emily had never felt lighter as she walked through the school hallways with Olivia and Hannah by her side. After weeks of pretending to be someone she wasn't, she was finally free. The tension that had wrapped itself around her like a tight rope was gone, and for the first time, she didn't care what people thought as they whispered or stared at her. She had left the Queens, and now she was ready to face whatever came next. During lunch, Emily sat with Olivia and Hannah at their usual spot by the windows. The sun filtered through the glass, casting a warm glow over the table as they ate and chatted like old times. It felt good, natural, easy. Emily hadn't realized just how much she had missed this, how much she had missed them. But there was still something she needed to say. Emily put down her sandwich and glanced at her friends, her heart pounding. "I owe you both an apology," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "I've been awful lately, and I know I hurt you guys by ditching you for the Queens. I got so caught up in trying to fit in that I lost sight of who I really am." Olivia gave her a soft smile. "Emily, we understand. High school is complicated. We're just glad you're back." Hannah nodded, her curly hair bouncing as she spoke. "Yeah, we get it. We've all been through stuff like that. The important thing is, you figured it out before it was too late." Emily felt a lump rise in her throat. Their forgiveness was more than she deserved, but she was grateful for it. "Thanks," she whispered, her eyes misting slightly. "You guys are the best." Olivia leaned over and gave her a quick hug. "We're here for you, always." The warmth and sincerity of their friendship hit Emily like a wave. This was what real friends did. They supported each other, forgave each other, and accepted each other for who they were. With Olivia and Hannah, she didn't have to pretend or change herself. She could just be Emily. Over the next few days, Emily found herself settling back into her own skin. She wore the clothes she felt comfortable in: jeans, sneakers, and her favorite t-shirts. Gone were the fancy outfits and designer accessories that Jessica had approved. And with every step she took back to being herself, the whispers around school seemed to fade into the background. But there was still the matter of Jessica. Emily knew that standing up to her had been just the beginning. Jessica's influence over the school had been built on fear and manipulation, and as long as she held that power, there would always be others, like Valerie or Megan, who became her targets. One afternoon, as Emily was gathering her books from her locker, she overheard a group of girls talking nearby. Jessica's name came up, as usual, but this time something was different. "She's not so scary anymore," one girl said, rolling her eyes. "Yeah, ever since Emily left, it's like she's lost her edge," another agreed. Emily blinked in surprise. She hadn't realized just how much her actions had affected Jessica's hold on the school. Without Emily there to do her dirty work, Jessica's plans seemed to be unraveling. People weren't as afraid of her as they once were. And then, to her astonishment, Emily saw Megan walk by, laughing with a group of friends from the art club. She looked happy, carefree, completely untouched by Jessica's schemes. Emily smiled to herself. Maybe standing up to Jessica hadn't just freed her, it had freed others too. That afternoon, Emily decided it was time to take things a step further. The next morning, Emily walked into school with Olivia and Hannah by her side. They headed straight for the cafeteria, where Jessica and her entourage were sitting at their usual table. The sight of Jessica, Amber, and Chloe, still trying to maintain their icy demeanor, no longer intimidated Emily. She felt strong, and this time she wasn't going to let Jessica control her or anyone else. Taking a deep breath, Emily approached the table. Jessica looked up, her expression unreadable. "Emily," Jessica said coolly, "what do you want?" Emily stood tall, her voice clear and calm. "I just wanted to say something," she began, her heart racing, but her determination unwavering. "I'm not afraid of you anymore, Jessica, and I don't think anyone else should be either." The cafeteria grew quiet as people turned to watch. Jessica's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. I'm done with the games and the manipulation, Emily continued. It's not worth it. You can try to tear people down, but all it does is make you look weak. Real power comes from being kind, from having real friends, not from controlling others. Jessica's face flushed with anger, but she remained silent, her lips pressed into a thin line. I'm sorry for ever being part of your group, Emily said, her voice softening. But I'm not that person anymore, and neither is anyone else who's been scared of you. With that, Emily turned and walked away, leaving Jessica sitting there, speechless. For the first time, the crowd wasn't focused on Jessica. They were looking at Emily with something like admiration. As she walked out of the cafeteria, Olivia and Hannah grinned at her, pride in their eyes. That was amazing, Hannah said, beaming. I think you just changed everything, Olivia added, giving Emily a high five. Emily couldn't help but laugh. It wasn't about popularity or power anymore. It was about being true to herself, and she had finally found the strength to do that. She didn't need Jessica's approval or the validation of being part of the in crowd. She had her real friends, and that was more than enough. In the weeks that followed, Jessica's hold on the school continued to weaken. People stopped paying attention to her cruel remarks and manipulations. She still had Amber and Chloe by her side, but their power was fading, and the school slowly returned to normal. Without Jessica dominating every conversation, people found it easier to be themselves. As for Emily, she flourished. She spent her days laughing with Olivia and Hannah, joining them in activities that actually made her happy. They even convinced her to join the art club with Megan, who had quickly become one of their new friends. High school was still high school. There were still challenges and drama, but Emily had learned the most important lesson of all. Being true to yourself and surrounding yourself with real friends was worth more than any popularity could offer. And as she sat by the windows during lunch one afternoon, watching the sun shine through, Emily knew that she had made the right choice. In the end, it wasn't about being part of the Queens. It was about finding the people who accepted her for who she was, flaws and all. Because that's what true friendship was all about.